Hi, welcome back. My name's Alex, aka Polymonster. This is my YouTube channel, and I am going to be talking about Dig, my music app, today. Well, I'm going to be doing some coding actually. I'm going to fix some problems. So, since last time I was doing this, I've actually had some interesting developments. I posted about it in a few places, or I've tried to in the past, in Reddit, maybe like coding one, Hacker News, Twitter, Mastodon, social media that I'm on, which are more like coding centric, I suppose, in terms of people that follow me. And no one really, I didn't get really much traction, and maybe I got a few GitHub stars on the repo. I think there's about 12 on there, which isn't many, but it didn't really get any genuine interest. So I posted it into the Houghton subreddit. Houghton is a festival with which has a lot of music that I like, and so the kind of music that I've so far curated into the app is very fitting there, and a lot of people responded and seemed interested. So I've got about 15 users now. But the problem with that is that I now have I've got a crash report, and I've got a screenshot report where someone was having trouble signing in. So there's a few things to sort out there. The first things first, I'm going to go for the crash. Always fix crashes first. Then I'll look at the sign in thing. I've got an idea to kind of resolve it for now, quickly. And then there are some improvements that I would like to make to the sign-in anyway, because it uses a keychain to store the credential, but it doesn't appear in my password manager. So I want to use these credentials. If you had an Android version, you'd use the same credentials, or a web version, you would log in with the same credentials, and I don't know what my credentials are. So that's something I need to resolve. But yeah, let's get to it and see how we will debug a crash from an iOS app via test flight using Xcode. Okay, this has worked perfectly actually. So this has already symbolicated the call stack for me. This used to be a bit of a pain because I know it's changed now, but originally what you used to do is when you build an executable, I can't remember the names of the executable they call them on iOS. Are they ELF? I don't know. But anyway, when you build the exe, you get a dsim file, and that has the symbols, so you can separate the symbols, and they're in their own file. And then what you used to have to do is upload the app to the App Store Connect with bitcode enabled. And when bitcode's enabled, it recompiles the code again in App Store Connect for different devices. And that meant it generated another dsim file, which was available in App Store Connect. And what you used to have to do was download the dsim, the built one, and then load it into here to symbolicate the crash. This already has this information, so I looked at this before in App Store Connect, which gave me an unsymbolicated crash with all the threads, and I had to sort of sift through it. And then I was looking at this fread. I knew it was fread because that symbol was there, and I assumed it was in this function, which is actually quite nice because will it take me to it? No. Yeah, open that. Perfect, right? We've crashed on fread, right? And I looked at this code before and I was like, well, actually, it's not checking if file is null, but it's assuming, I think like the logic is such that, oh my god, every time I cannot use a Windows keyboard with Mac OS. Some reason my brain doesn't, I can't remember the correct shortcuts. So there I did the wrong copy and paste. Was I trying to copy and paste? Yes. Windows and C. I just wanted to find where this gets it called from. So I was like, it doesn't check, right? Which is foolish, but this is new code actually. I only added it the other day. So the reason this is there is that some files have now started to become WebP. there, it's a web format, compression format, container, and most of the others are JPEGs, I think. But so what I was using for image loading for just normal images like JPEGs is STBI load, which is STB, single headers, right? Let's go to there. STB, single file, public domain. We'll give shout outs to anything open source. 30k stars, very impressive. STB, nothings. Sean Barrett, I believe he was called. So this has a bunch of stuff, like just header only libs, and there's STB image is in here. And that loads JPEG, PNG, TGA, bitmaps, GIFs, all of that. So that's, it's handy and it's good and it's simple and it's just a header, which is nice. But it doesn't support WebP. So then I started to use Simple WebP. Let's go to that. Simple WebP. This is the one. This has 15 stars. I starred it. I give it a shout out. It's a similar format. It's a header only lib, and it's working. And it took me like, it's 7 lines of code to hook it in. Simple WebP, do all of this. Performance seems fine. I've got no issues with it, and yeah, basically I did it last week in a weeknight after work, and you just include the header. This is the implementation, because you might include the header elsewhere. You only want one implementation if you want to include the code. So you don't have to add it in your linker. And then the same happens with STB image implementation. So STB kind of popularized that header only libs, which I think is, I like it, but I usually have a build system, another metas build system like pre-make and stuff, so it's not difficult for me to add things via a linker. But I added this code, and in order to know if it is a WebP or not, the first thing you have to do is just check the first 4 characters of the file are RIFF, RIFF. So it does a check there, and it reads this file into the buffer, closes it to get the CC code, and then proceeds to load the image. Now, at this point, it's kind of assuming that the file exists and it has been cached to disk. And basically, we need some kind of, we're going to load texture to disk, artwork's cached and artwork's loaded. So yeah, is artwork cached? This must have happened and failed, or cached a file that isn't a full file. Download and cache, artwork file path. So now it might be like, I don't know, I need to follow the logic and just see where do I properly need to handle this. See, I return it a file path. Actually, in here, interestingly, I mean, the file could fail to I'm not really handling this very well. It's tried to download. It could have failed to download the URL of the artwork. And not, I suppose it's saying, okay. If the file we download from via curl, and if there's not an error and we don't find an error code, then we write the data to disk and then we return the file path. Now I had this little bit of code the other day when I was debugging something, so I don't need that. So now file path is, file path's always going to return regardless if it's succeeded or not, which seems foolish. And this is why I don't like C++, because its error handling is not as nice as Rust. Because Rust makes me do error handling, C++ doesn't. So yeah, I mean, this could work, and possibly what's happening is previously STBI is handling a failure to load. And then again, this could fail if the data is null. And then we're trying to create a texture from a null pointer of data, which seems also foolish. Plenty of foolish mistakes in here. So we'll just say if not ff, right, we can return early. And that's TCP. I don't know if it has an initializer, but this is where you want good error handling and return types and stuff, because now what I'm going to do is return a stubbed version. TCP, texture creation parameters, is basically a descriptor for a texture you want to load. So, we fill out the information, it's a RGBA8, we know it's that, width and height, data, pointed to the data, then that gets the ownership of that memory is taken by the texture itself. But we could return it by just saying, if the data in there is null, we're going to handle this as an error. So I'll make that null and then I'll return this one. Okay, so then now we can read fread. I just need to check if the file is at least, it needs to be at least 4 bytes. I mean, it's like, it should be at least 4 bytes. If there's not 4 bytes, then then we can't check the CC code. So that I suspect that's what's happened, or the file itself doesn't exist. And somehow, by some miracle, check file exists. Check file size. And now we have a null pointer which we've initialized with null pointer. I suspect that's going to be null pointer. That's going to be null pointer. Malloc, width and height. I mean, it's going to have to be a valid one at this point. So essentially, I'm assuming that data now in here, if it's going to be invalid, it's going to be null. So wherever I'm using this, I can test it, and why is it building? I accidentally built. So if data is non-null, then we know we can load it, which is fine. Oops. So now I need maybe a flag to say that artwork has failed to load. View terminate for view. So this might work. So now I'm just going to prevent the file ever being loaded, and it can stay on. Oh, I need another phone. Debugging via Wi-Fi, which isn't ideal. Slow. So it's installing it now, and it's starting to load. Load time via this network debug setup is not great. Still loading. Well, no issues for me, but I wasn't able to reproduce it. I don't know why it's still loading this other call stack as the debugger. Which we no longer need. I'm just going to start this again. Diig iOS. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to just do a test where I'm going to make all the artwork fail to load. And then we can just make sure that this case returning null is, works nicely. And I mean, in hindsight, I'm not really handling the errors very well here. I was probably just getting through it before based on the fact that the data was null. And that STB image would return null if the file didn't exist. And then my foolish addition without checking is then somehow become undefined behavior. Enough to go, oh, I've tried to read some bytes, I'm going to let you read some bytes and not assert, oh, I've got a good idea actually, I can verify, potentially reproduce it myself. Right, so now I have basically the placeholder image, which is sometimes valid. This one, in this case, the bug could have been one that didn't exist. It could have been one that failed to load, maybe. Maybe the cache became malformed. It shouldn't do, but that seems to be working fine. So a thing I could do just to verify this, because I'm sending this back to someone now, and I want to kind of be prepared and not have to just be like, oh, chuck over a build, I think that might fix it, and then it just still happens. So another thing I could do to check this would be to use address sanitizer and go back to the old behavior. So we're not going to do the check of if the file handle is non-null. We're not going to do the check where we see if the file size is less than 4 bytes. Just going to try to open the file and then read it, and then maybe I will find that there's an entry in the feed that would cause this issue where it's not loaded, it doesn't exist, something's gone wrong with it. Or maybe this is a user-specific issue. What I would love to be able to do now is to catch this with address sanitizer. Then I know the issue is definitely fixed, because I can enable this code again, run it with address sanitizer, and then see how it goes. I mean, I should probably find my lightning cable to connect to the laptop. So this is, I don't know if it makes it quicker actually. So we're going. I've got no address sanitizer issue. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. So there's my checks, and that should hopefully fix that for that user. Get rid of that. I mean, there is a case to say if there's an image on disk, that doesn't load. So if RGBA equals to null, if not RGBA equals to null, I don't think I have a useful function for deleting a single file. Like, can I use? See, I have something that can delete an entire directory, but and it needs to be done in a OS specific way, which is in the back end. So I'll probably just do that as a task for future. What should really happen is if a file is malformed, then we would just delete it, and then it'll try and re-download it again. This has happened in the past. I think I have had maybe issues with that. And then, yeah, you can just... I need some better cache cleaning functionality. I mean, I should put that in the debug menu because there isn't an option for it. But that's not a thing for now. I think for now, I have fixed... what I am going to do slightly extra just in case. been a while since I used this engine and code base, so I'm like, output debug, and that's always on. It's a console log, and then maybe if something further goes wrong, so failed to load a texture at that size, and then this is like right, well, I've put some logging in, so if they still have a problem, then we can check this. This will be in the logs if they get a crash. I was considering making a log that you can get in the app itself so you can see the errors, but for today I think I'll just try and do a hotfix, and then I'll make a note of these improvements for another time, because I do want to try and improve the login screen. Not getting any errors, but oh. So now we had an invalid audio, which I think these kind of silently group index and channel index. I think the assert won't fire in release, and I don't think this is happening. It says to do. We really don't want that happening, but if some of them don't have audio or audio is missing, this is going to be a similar scenario. So if I go back to main.cpp, so audio, so if I just get it to prevent it playing in the first place, this is the thing that I think with the file loading, the same thing was happening. It was kind of like passing null, and it was sort of managing to survive even though something had gone wrong silently, which, you know, it's not great. You want to know if something's going wrong, right? So downloading cache can give me a file path. I can't remember how we play audio. Audio player. So play track file length, it checks if the file length of the track is not 0, but it doesn't actually check if the file exists. It's file system. File exists. No. What did I do then? Wrong shortcuts again. So files that haven't loaded should have a 0 length, but Command X. So let's see if you invalidate the track, if we have the file, it goes on to different lines. Okay, so let's see if this fixes that assert. I mean, I'm not really running it in debug much, so the asserts are there to catch these things, but they're not telling me something's gone wrong. Right, and it was the one after Blue Train, because I liked that. Still going. Still asserting, right. Problem here is that I'm going to have to put a breakpoint in and see. Let's check the file size. I think there's no way of knowing really. Could be a different format file or a file that's not fully downloaded, something like that. I think I need to handle this a bit better. You know, I suppose being one of only a few users of this before, You know, I've been happy to just clear the cache, something's gone wrong. Now it's a user experience issue where people are going to expect a little bit more. Okay, so it's the next track after this one. So 27150 is sounds reasonable. Where has that gone? You know, the debugger has absolutely died in just trying to show me a simple bit of information. Play track file path. What order do these come into? Play track file path. So, I mean, one 186144 from Red Eye. 186144. Again with that stupid. Look at this. I just wonder if the people making this thing actually even use it. You know? Right. So I've got that, but I suspect, let's check a release build, and then just, and it might be benign, which isn't ideal, but for the time being we can coast along knowing, I suspect something like maybe, you know, the file format, the audio format might not be supported, or maybe it hasn't downloaded the whole thing. This is a bigger job because I need to then feed back. The audio is being processed on a different thread. There's a bit of synchronization there that, you know, when you kick off these commands to load the sound, it's not immediately happening. So you'd have to kick it off, wait for the thread to complete and check, and that's going to be a bit more work, and I'm not going to do it tonight. I just want to get this fix out. If this works, I'll leave it at that, and then at least I've got some better insights into this. But yeah, lack of error handling really, and error propagation. And like I said before, when I started using Rust, it kind of forces you into that way. And in doing so, I don't know, I feel like you make better software, you know, because you're actually handling your errors in a nice way. I know C++ does have like result or option kind of things now. Right, so they're all here now. These are the tracks that were crashing. They're not playing, but yeah, interesting. I did get that copy and paste. I need to make a note of what that one is. Right, I'm going to stop running that. So here was the file. We're just going to go to get the URL of this. And diig the scraper, and we are in the Redeye JSON. So I could just search for it. So it's a new track. So let's get the latest. It calls them MP3. Doesn't exist. Interesting. So let's see if we can find the actual track on Redeye itself. So yeah, interestingly, it doesn't exist, which I assume then the response inside the file, if it doesn't work, would have some HTML saying like, you know, that basically is that page, right? It's the HTML, but what was it? It's like, I don't know. Seemed like maybe it wasn't, maybe it was a bit too small, but you can't base it on the size of the file. There's no way of knowing without checking inside it. So this is the link to the actual release, and well, yeah, the player itself isn't playing, so they're failing. Some reason, something's gone wrong with those files. They don't exist. They've been misnamed or something like that. So I'm not worried about it because, you know, it's just missing audio. For some reason, they must have existed in the first place because the scraper will check if they exist. I want to remove that because it feels like you're doing more requests than you need to do. And I've figured a way to improve the scraper. But the files don't exist in the real world anyway. So whatever I've downloaded is not an MP3 and it's an invalid response. So I can ignore that. I just need to handle the error handling of if the audio files work. I need to check them or something before playing them. And then I can kind of handle it a bit more myself. What that will involve is poking in the header of an MP3 or maybe an OGG and just making sure that the files are valid. But for now, I think that's a decent amount of checking and error handling for, at least for the images. Next thing was the sign-in page. So, I call it sign in, auto login, which is what usually gets called login complete. Sign up menu. So new user is login or sign up. Let's see. So the first one, it goes into auto login, but I just want to debug the login or sign up menu. So there's a few things I want to fix here. I don't know how much I'll be able to do today. I think I'll certainly just enable. So the person complained that they weren't able to click sign up There was some logic in there. So let's see. Oh, login or sign up. And I haven't seen this menu for a long time because my credentials are stored in Keychain, but they're not visible in Password Manager, and I do want to resolve that. But what it means is that it just logs in. How is this happening? Maybe I do have to go through the auto login page first. So I'm just going to clear that, and then it's going to go into the next page. I think that was my issue. Maybe. Goes to login or sign up. It needs to be executed in the right place. So I'll run it again. I'll see if I can see the login or sign up, and then we'll go into specifically the sign up. Okay, so it gives me login or sign up option. I'll go to sign up, which is this. So what the person said is that the sign up button didn't ever show up. And the reason for that is until you've filled out all the, well, he had the data filled out. But, right, so username. This is feeling terribly slow. So they said it didn't bring up the sign up button, and you need to fill out all the info and have the passwords matching. So I'll just try and do another sign up. I don't actually want to save this in my keychain though or anything. I mean, now it's come up. Sign-ups come up. My passwords are matching. So I'm pretty sure the person must have done that. Incorrect. But, you know, we could say, we could auto log in. We could say on the page, I could take that away for them, and then it should have an error message. Sign up menu. Error message. Retype. And then here's where it checks. It checks, is there a username? Is there an email? Is there a password? Have you retyped the password? And are the passwords the same? And then, if it's valid, the sign up button comes. And then it'll give you an error. I'm just going to do a test here. So I'll move. I'll tell you that I'll move this for them. So then, at least once they've filled out the info, it's submittable. A string compare, maybe no, it should string compare. They should be both the same. So if the passwords are the same, then error message. It's an enlowman JSON. Is that right? There's error message defined. Okay, passwords do not match, error message, and if the error message is not empty, we do login complete. So that'll give them at least feedback that that's been wrong. If for some reason they are correct, and I can't see why the string compare would fail, but who knows? Let's run it again, log in, try and fail logging in, and then maybe also I'll test an incorrect email, invalid email address or something. I just need to, I don't want to overwrite my existing credentials. Okay, we go for sign up. So now I've got in there incorrectly matching passwords. Sign up, error, passwords do not match. And now they should match, but it's going to fail for another reason. Invalid email, right? Okay. Cool. Okay, that's 2 quick fixes in. Right, so I decided, basically I'm going to leave it there for now. I need to look into this keychain stuff more. I've got a few things I'm storing in the keychain related to the app, but it's not really grouped together maybe in the right way. And I need to do a bit of experimenting, and also I was having to debug then, my own password, so I don't want to leak that on a YouTube video. So what I'm going to do now, I've fixed, I've got the fix for the image loading crash. I've got a change for the person who was struggling with the sign up, that hopefully maybe then the button's there and then they'll get some more responsive feedback as to exactly why it's not being accepted. And so I'm going to push a build for that, and I'll show you how that happens. So I have a terminal here. The text will probably be quite small here, but I can't be bothered to change it. But I'm just CDing into a GitHub Action runner, which is a self-hosted runner. So I just need to run this. It should be run.sh. So this is running the actions runner. And then basically what I have to do, or all I have to do, for pushing to, let's do it from here because the text can be a bit bigger. Okay, so clear that console. So all I have to do from here now is I'll look at my changes. I did make changes in PM Tech. Let's see what they were. I've got some changes in here. Oh, I added that one. Ident. I'm not going to push that for now. I'm going to look at this and I'm going to make sure that the service, all of the things that go together with it are correct. And I'll kind of just do a bit more research on that. So all I have really is some changes to the main CPP file of the app. I removed some debug output there. I was checking if the file exists and the file size is. That is safe to fread. Gracefully handling a fact where the data, image data may become null. And then moving the error message response code in the sign up menu. So that's all going to go in, and this is just going to go straight into main, because that's how I roll. Oh. Crash. Edge checks. So now I push my commits, and then the final thing to do is tag it. We're up to build 31. This naming convention for the tags is a bit funny because it's working based on how App Store Connect likes it, because it uses this last part. And then I think I've got probably too many versions, but you can have a major, a minor, and a build number in App Store, and the build number is just the bundle number so far, so it hasn't been released. It will become 1.0.3, yeah, 1.0.0 when it gets released, and then the bundle identifier will then keep increasing. So that's git tag, and then you git push tags, and if we look at my GitHub, still got a cough. I've had a cough for a while. Where's diig? Not on the front page. It doesn't have enough stars yet, you know, it's got 12. It needs to promote itself onto the front page. And I have a better demo of this now, actually. But what should be happening is GitHub Actions should be starting. And it has triggered. It's created the release. It's just running now. This one here, it's running the job. I do have to put my credentials in here. This was an annoying thing that I used to be able to run this completely in the cloud. But now you can't use a cloud build agent. It won't let you upload the build to test flight. It says that the machine is not registered in your account. And that should be, yeah, now it's running. You have to just authenticate it. But it was easier doing it this way than just, I don't like building it manually. This is a completely clean environment that's going to pull latest every time it's clean. It's a nice way to do, a containerized build. So yeah, it's building, and that will build it, and that will upload it. So I'm going to leave it here now. That was just some debugging, and well, I'll see you next time. If you like this, if you like the app, if you want to use it, give me a shout. You can find my contact details. You can find out my website. I'll put the link in the description. You can email me. You can contact me by DM in any various social platform that you find on there. Email's probably better because I will check those. Then you can get on the beta if you want to use diig. If you like these videos, then give me a like, give me a subscribe, give me a comment, all of that stuff. I don't really have many followers, but it would be nice to try and build the channel a bit more, and I've had a bit more engagement about things I've been doing recently, so it's nice. So yeah, check it out, give me a shout, and I'll see you next time. Bye.